Good afternoon. This is Micah Mitchell with Madison County Weather Updates. Wanted to take a few minutes to talk to you about the severe storm that affected northwestern Madison County last night. Primarily affected areas around Frankton, Elwood, Orestes, Rigdon, Alexandria, and Summitville. It created quite a stir and ended up being a pretty exciting event. But there was a lot of question about, was it a tornado or was it not a tornado? So we'll move on. This is a picture I took from North Anderson. At this point, the storm is off to our west. It's beginning to pick up, some low-level clouds, creating some condensation while it was happening. This was rotating. It was lifting very quickly. The very earliest signs of some rotation up here were occurring. You can actually see the bulk of the rain actually was off here to our right or north from where I'm looking, and this entire thing was rotating very slowly, but no vicious rotation. A few minutes later, we end up with this picture from Kelly Graham Dunn up near Frankton. It's becoming much better organized. This phone does not want to focus very well. You can see there's what appears to be a little bit of inflow back here. That's actually probably a deception in retrospect, but it's becoming more collected, but you can still see through it, and it's not connecting to the clouds, and that's a key indicator. There's no wall cloud. That's also another key indicator. However, this would end up resulting in some tornado sirens apparently being set off. Then we move on to what ended up being drawing the most buzz, and that's this great video from Laura Whitcamper, also up near Elwood. By this point, it has really gotten its act together. It's what appears to be a tornado, really, when you first look at it. However, I'll roll this video here in a second, but the things to note as it runs is that this really is not connected to the clouds up here. There's no wall cloud. There's no inflow showing up in the clouds, and what appears to be inflow down here, and probably is, it's everything being gathered up. This was rotating. The entire thing was rotating. However, again, it's not connected. So it's the real culprit actually probably ends up showing up in her video as I roll this here in a second. And Danielle Dozier was the first one to posit the idea of a downburst, and when she first said that, I was thinking she was talking about this that we're looking at, in which case the winds should have been flowing toward Lauren Whitcamper, and instead they're flowing from right to left. And so let me get this going here. You can see the winds are flowing right to left. If this were a tornado, they should actually be flowing the opposite direction and toward what appeared to be a funnel. Instead, when you look back and I kind of messed up there. Let me go back just a touch. Here we go. Okay, now when you look back there, that is actually probably our culprit. There is probably the downburst. The winds are flowing out toward this, and from my angle, I was on the opposite side. They flew out at about 60 miles per hour toward North Anderson. It was, and probably 360 degrees from that, probably experienced strong winds. This flowed out, kicked up there ends up being enough turbulence along the ground to create this, which in retrospect ends up being what my weather friend Michael Wade Moss ended up correctly pegging as a gustnado. It's not a tornado. It looks like a tornado. It rotates like one, but they end up cutting off at about, sometimes they're really shallow like a dust devil, 30, 40 feet high. In this case, it got up there several hundred feet, so it gives the appearance of connecting to the cloud. So the downburst that was back to the right kicked off winds in all directions, high winds. It so happened everything came together up here near Frankton and Elwood to start creating this gustnado. And you watch it, you can see winds flowing away right there. Again, this field is really fortunate that this was by this field, because you could see the way the dust was blowing, and that it's coming from actually back here in this background. You actually see it's better developed storm back there. But again, no wall cloud, no connection to the clouds for the what appeared to be funnel. No inflow notch, in the clouds. No wall cloud. So gustnado was probably the correct diagnosis of this. Induced by the downburst that Danielle Dozier noted. It does not mean that these are not dangerous, because actually, if you're under a downburst, especially a strong enough one, they will flatten whatever is underneath them when it's a burst of cold air and often rain that just comes straight down out of the clouds, slams into the ground. The winds flow out in what ends up being like a straight line wind, and those can be every bit as destructive as a tornado, as can this gustnado. This gustnado can be as strong as an F0 or sometimes an F1 tornado. So they can be destructive. They're nothing to be taken lightly, but it is not a tornado. I'm not sure if the National Weather Service will go out and investigate this or not, but I'm sure they'll turn out that it's not a tornado. But it was worth noting, and worth reviewing what I was looking at. A lot of information comes in at the time. It's hard to diagnose it when it's going on. However, in retrospect, you get a chance to break it down and see what was most likely really going on. Again, still very exciting. A lot of great pictures. I appreciate those. This great video from Lauren Whitcamper, and it all helps put the pieces together, so your reports are very important. We did touch the 3,000 followers mark on the page last night. I am very flattered by that. I appreciate you all greatly trusting me for your weather. And again, this is Micah Mitchell for Madison County Weather Updates. This is a bit rambling. I have a migraine, so it didn't turn out super great, but I think I got you the information that you needed. Thank you very much for following.